Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi. C'est génial d'être ici à Montréal. When I was young, my family lived in a little house in St. John's. How little? A real estate agent might call it cozy. It was between Christmas and New Year's. I was 12 years old. My brother and I were over at a friend's place. My parents were at home watching TV in the basement. That's when the fire started. My mom and dad, they got out of the house. The fire department came. Our kitchen was a write-off, totally charred. The rest of the house was okay, but there was a lot of smoke damage. I can still remember my parents coming to pick us up. When I got in the car, I could smell the smoke on them. And I remember the look on their faces. Relief at having survived, at having saved the house from destruction, but also concern, worry. What now? How will we possibly get by? I do not exaggerate when I use these words. Insurance saved us. They found us a hotel. We ended up staying there for a few months. My parents had little to no savings. After the fire, the insurance company organized and paid for the repairs. They made sure my brother and I had our few Christmas gifts. They were there for us. In our industry, the big disasters, the major floods and wildfires, they get the headlines. But the core of our business is being there for a Canadian family when they need us, often on one of their worst days. And believe me, I know firsthand, being there for a family makes all the difference. That feeling stuck with me as I grew up. I still feel it here today. And there are times that I'll meet someone socially, and maybe they'll ask about my career. And I'll sometimes see that look in their eye when I use the word insurance. I'm sure some of you know that look, right? And if you don't, well, I went out and found some folks who were willing to share. Let's take a look at the screen.
Well, it's a scam. They're taking your money, you get nothing.
It's a necessary evil.
Necessary, expensive, hopefully don't need.
I think it's a ripoff.
Expensive.
Expensive?
My father-in-law, for example, was in an accident. His rates increased more than the total damage of all the vehicles involved in the accident.
I also think that they're not invested in me, they're invested in their own company and their profits.
If you don't have somebody who equates the experience you're having with regards to the service they're providing, it can feel really callous. It can feel incredibly shallow.
The mandated part of insurance is not conducive to competition. If it's a product I could choose to buy or not, then the insurance companies would have to up their game and say, okay, we have to be competitive.
So yeah, we get it. No one likes insurance until they need insurance. And then they love insurance. They love the sense of relief. They love the comfort of knowing they're protected. Let's take another look.
Well, as someone that actually recently filed an insurance claim, my boat sunk. Something that you don't think about that often until you really need it and you realize it's there for you.
I think the benefits definitely outweigh the costs based on my own experiences.
We got robbed. My husband got robbed and we lost a couple of items, and then we claimed our insurance, and it wasn't as painful as I thought it was going to be.
It's a good thing for us because it makes you ready for all the emergencies in life.
Been there, been in an accident, needed to use it myself, so make sure you have insurance.
So, let's own who we are, shall we? We are a pillar of modern life, a driver of the economy, a safety net in the hard times. The work we do is important, essential. Here's the way I think about anyone who might give us that look about the insurance industry. I may not be able to change how they feel about us, but together, we can change how they think about us. We can remind them, and all Canadians, of the critical role we play in protecting people and property, for being there for them, helping them get back on their feet. We can show them that we are constantly pushing for better, more consumer-friendly policies and a better future. In other words, we can tell our story with pride. I certainly do. Now, part of our story, part of our history as an industry is understanding that things change. New risks emerge. The needs of our customers shift. How we respond makes a difference. Some of you may be familiar with Alistair Roberts. He's a Canadian professor. His work focuses on large-scale political systems and organizations. He asks an important question. Why do some survive while others fail? Here's what he's found. The key to survival is the ability and willingness to evolve and transform. Resilience is important, but it's not enough. Consistency is important, but again, not enough. We must evolve. We must grow to perform new tasks and functions. We must be willing and able to meet new opportunities and challenges. In a time of change, Professor Roberts has found that the biggest threat to any large system or industry is short-term thinking. It's seeing the trees, but not the forest. In a nutshell, if you aren't evolving, you won't thrive. If you're not evolving, there's a chance you won't survive. A few key points to when it comes to how we can change and evolve. We need to be forward-thinking so we can spot those opportunities and those challenges. We need to come up with strategies to respond to long-term threats. And we need to be good at execution, translating that strategy into action. Here's the thing. I know many of you are already doing this within your own companies. It's part of your competitive advantage. But it's crucial that we face the future also as an industry, that we work together to bring a clear and collective focus to emerging challenges, and to make sure that we're evolving in a way that would deliver shared progress. Right now, there are 3 relatively new forces at work affecting our industry. 1, our changing climate and dangerous weather events that are growing in frequency and severity. This has been a summer of more than 5,000 forest fires, burning right across our country, including here in Quebec. Millions of hectares, a record summer in all the worst ways. With more fires and floods, we're seeing more threats to life and higher costs related to recovery. The scope of the challenge keeps expanding. To give you just one example, in the last year alone, in Nova Scotia, tiny, beautiful Nova Scotia, they've dealt with major floods, wildfires, and hurricanes. And with each new hardship across our country, there are moments of heartbreak, the loss of life and property, families uprooted, communities changed forever. This is our new normal. The second force shaping our industry, a growing trend towards sweeping regulations, new taxation, and government intervention. It's coming at us from all sides. OSFI's agenda has grown 3-fold. The consultation is jammed and ever-growing. A government-mandated rate freeze on auto insurance rates in Alberta, new efforts to increase taxes on companies within our sector. It's a trend that carries long-term potential for our industry, especially in an era of productivity challenges and rising costs. And the third force at work? Technological progress. Everything from autonomous cars to AI. Strip away both the utopian hype and doomsday prophecies, and you'll still have a revolution in what we will be able to achieve through technology. And on the flip side of that, what your competitors will be able to achieve. As we confront these forces, we need to be ready and eager to evolve. We need to evolve through action, advancing new ideas and policies, discarding old ways of thinking, so we stay relevant to the lives of Canadians, always focused on the consumer. And we need to evolve through advocacy. That means standing up for what is fair and speaking out for solutions that serve not only our industry, but also our customers and our country as a whole. 3 forces at work. Let's explore. I'll start with the climate file. This is an example of how our action and advocacy can have a real and meaningful impact. More than a decade ago, we understood that our industry and our country would need to adapt to the changing climate. We made the choice to be proactive. We developed new flood insurance products to help protect Canadian families, and we began advocating to governments, calling for policy changes that would respond to this new era of risk. In other words, we evolved to meet a new challenge. Earlier this year, the federal government made it official. They're going to stand up a national flood insurance program, and they vowed to engage with us on the development of that program. Bill Blair, Emergency Preparedness Minister at the time, highlighted the contributions of IBC and the industry. He said, the government sees us as partners in protection. And we're continuing to work with them to find new solutions on earthquake insurance. The threat of a serious earthquake exists in areas all across our country. Yet few Canadians in Eastern Canada are adequately insured against the risk. And in the West, insurers are overexposed without an industry backstop. Working with government, we can financially protect both Canadians and the federal treasury by putting in place a program of affordable insurance for those at greatest risk, a program backstopped by government. Taken together, these are key developments for our industry. A government-backed flood insurance program in partnership with Canada's P&C insurers will help ensure that all homeowners, regardless of where they live, regardless of their risk exposure, have access to affordable insurance. And that program should pave the way for a parallel or an integrated program on seismic risk. Climate risks will continue to grow. We still have work to do, but a national flood solution is a huge step forward. And we're not done pressing for action. The government says it wants to have the program up and running within 3 years. We're pushing hard to get it done in 2. People shouldn't have to wait any longer than necessary. Let's move now to the second force that I highlighted, an evolving regulatory environment, new taxation, and government intervention in general, perhaps most notably in Alberta with the latest freeze on auto insurance rates. I know these are huge issues for many of you. So let's explore where we find ourselves today and how we're responding. I'll start with OSFI. They have an obligation to monitor and respond to global developments and trends, and they have a responsibility to deliver on that mandate. We get that. Our issue has, in part, been with the pace and scope of the proposed reforms. That's why we've been advocating for a more measured approach. We appreciate the fact that they've been willing to listen, willing to engage in good faith dialogue, and willing to make some important changes. But in our view, there's more work to do to get the balance right. You've heard us say it before. Regulation should exist to protect people from risk, not from progress or competition. Canadian companies need a stable, predictable regulatory environment so they can grow and innovate. But for regulation to truly be effective, it can't be one size fits all. The P&C industry is so diverse, so many insurers, so many different business models and levels of complexity. We're not the same as the banks, not even close. And so we shouldn't be treated the same as them when it comes to anti-money laundering, foreign interference, crypto, or a range of other initiatives. There must be a bespoke approach to regulation to bring stability and predictability, an approach that reflects the competitive nature of our industry. Our goal at IBC is to ensure that our industry is treated fairly and is appropriately scoped. Suffice to say that we will continue to emphasize the importance of a predictable and appropriate regulatory environment. And let me just add, the same goes for taxation. They go hand in hand. Regulation and taxation should encourage competitiveness and innovation. They should be designed so they help attract capital, create good jobs, and ensure carriers can serve their policyholders. Of late, the federal government has opted to tax the financial sector in an effort to fund its other priorities. And the polite word for this is counterproductive. It's counterproductive to try to grow an economy and create good jobs by putting more of a burden on those that help power the economy and the job market. And, as with regulation, the P&C sector simply operates differently than the banks and insurers. Again, a bespoke approach to taxation is needed for our industry. I can tell you that IBC has engaged Finance Canada to limit the impacts of the latest taxation changes on dividends, and it appears that, for now, we've been successful. But we need to address this trend over the long term. That means educating Finance Canada on how our industry is different. We're determined to back up our advocacy with action. And we're going to make sure that our voice, your voice, is heard loud and clear. Before I move on, I want to just touch briefly on the issue of direct intervention in markets by government. Rate freezes on auto insurance undermine the very notion of predictable regulation. Even worse, they don't help drivers over the long term. We've been seeing that in California. We've been watching drivers deal with the fallout of government intervention in the marketplace. For many, it's getting harder to even find insurance. We don't want to see that happen in Alberta or anywhere else in Canada. And so we will continue to make the case that the path for greater affordability in auto insurance lies in real reform, in choice for consumers, not in short-term gimmicks. Let's move on to the third force that's shaping our industry, the challenges and opportunities of technological progress. For years, we've been focused on the trend towards autonomous vehicles, asking ourselves, what will this mean for us? The truly self-driving car for a family remains a concept, not a reality, but changes are coming to how cars operate and how we use them. More recently, we've watched with fascination and perhaps a little trepidation as artificial intelligence has entered the mainstream conversation. AI raises key questions for us. How will technology affect our ability to do business? How will it make us more efficient and effective in what we do? In many ways, these are competitive questions, questions that each insurer will ultimately answer on their own. But there are wider questions: the impact on privacy, the possibilities for greater efficiency and accuracy in how we make decisions and price products, and of course, the potential for new competitive entities to emerge and threaten established industry leaders, or the industry as a whole. There's a saying out there in the tech world, AI is not going to take your job. Someone who understands AI is going to take your job. And that warning applies to industries as well. We need to keep up. We need to keep asking ourselves, how can we use AI as a tool? What can it replace or enhance? What influence will government exert? Extreme voices, they want to ban AI. But a more sensible approach would be to prioritize responsible regulation over a knee-jerk reaction. I'm giving you more questions right now than answers. But that's where we are at the moment. That's where we always are at the early stages of a technological shift. A lot of opinions and speculation, but no one can forecast with any degree of certainty what the future holds on AI and how precisely it will impact our industry. But this much is clear. Real change is coming. And it's essential that we stay alert, that we keep asking ourselves these questions, that we measure the need for action and advocacy. Those who refuse to evolve risk falling back, falling behind, losing out. There will be a need for individual insurers to act to preserve and advance their competitive position. And there very well may be need for insurers to act collectively and advocate collectively for changes or reforms made necessary by new technologies, and for a level playing field on the regulatory front, one that applies to existing companies and potential new entrants. So, let's tie it all together. To thrive in a changing world, we need to be proactive. We need to create strategies that respond to long-term threats, and we need to translate those strategies into action. We did it on the flood file and are continuing to do so. We're doing it now on the regulatory file. We must be prepared to do it on the technology file. Past, present, future. Action and advocacy. Let me leave you with just three key takeaways. One, we need to tell our story and tell it with pride and confidence. People can feel about us however they like, but we can make them think different. We can help them see the essential and helpful role that we play every day. Two, change is everywhere. We need to work together to evolve as an industry to meet the shifting needs of our customers. That means being forward-thinking. It means stepping up and speaking out. It means facing long-term challenges head-on and with our eyes wide open. And three, we need to be there for Canadians, for the folks we saw in the videos, and for everybody else. Even in this era of growing challenges, especially in this new era, we need to rise to the challenge and stand shoulder to shoulder with our customers. Back when I was 12 years old, back in St. John's, I only got to go into our little house one time while it was damaged. I will never forget the sight of that Christmas tree. Most of the branches were singed. Most of our ornaments were damaged. My mom kept one of those smoky ornaments. She's held onto it for all these years. 3 carolers joined together in song. Although we no longer call them our Christmas carolers, we call them our chimney sweeps, our resilient chimney sweeps. For our family, it's a reminder of both a moment of crisis and of the aftermath. The realization that not all had been lost, that we could start again, that someone had our backs. I know our industry, our people. I have every confidence that we are ready to face the future. Let's never lose sight of the good we do. Let's always be leaders, pushing for solutions that will better protect Canadians. Above all else, let's be there for the people across our country, in their worst moments, and in the actions we take to help protect them from the threats of today and tomorrow. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.